Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Zach Attack is here with the first Attack Sportz of 2015 on this Monday, January the 5th, 2015. Hope everyone had a great and safe New Year's weekend. I know I did. Now, before I get to my thoughts on the Wildcard games this past weekend for the NFL and see if my predictions were right from last week, I'd like to send my thoughts and prayers and condolences to the friends and family of ESPN commentator Stuart Scott, who passed away yesterday morning at the age of 49 due to cancer. I didn't know he was battling cancer until I found a few months ago. I was watching Monday Night Football Countdown. Apparently he was battling cancer. Of course, the longtime ESPN commentator for Sports Center, among many other shows. Now, I am not one of those. I know a lot of guys who love sports, watch Sports Center on loop. I watch ESPN occasionally, but not as much as other guys watch Sports Center to get their sports fix. But at least I've heard of Stuart Scott's name. I've seen him on several other shows, including, he was on those VH1 shows, like the I Love the 80s and all them. So was his co-anchor on ESPN for so many years, who's now commentating now on the NFL Network, Rich Eisen, who gave a very well thought out and very emotional speech on the air on NFL Network, and then paying homage to his friend by using all of his catchphrases during the highlight reel of the Bengals-Colts game. That was funny. Because he had so many catchphrases like, "Booyah," and "it's cool," as the other side of the pillow. So even though I didn't watch him that much, at least I knew who he was and had some of his famous catchphrases in my head, as many of his catchphrases were influential in the world of pop culture. So he leaves behind two lovely daughters and a wife and all that stuff. It's sad to see him pass, especially after the holidays too. At least he lived through Christmas. You know, that's the thing, as his daughter can say. At least he had one final Christmas. You know. So rest in peace to you, Stuart. Booyah to you up in the heavens. Now, on with the NFL wildcard games. Let's kick things off with the AFC wildcard games. Now, my predictions. When it comes to my predictions, I was 3-1. One I was wrong on, and one I was right on, but I didn't know I was going to be that white. I'll get to that in a minute. So I was right on the only game I was wrong on was the AFC game between the Steelers and the Ravens. Predicted Pittsburgh to win that game. That was the only game I missed that I didn't get right. I predicted that last week and I got that wrong. And it says the Ravens won the game thanks to many turnovers from Ben, fumbles, interceptions, all that good stuff on Saturday night's game, which ended up leading up to a victory for the Ravens. 30-17. Pittsburgh tried to rally, but they couldn't get the job done. Of course, it was on the same time as UFC, so that was a whole lot interesting. But I was right on the other AFC game. The Bengals against the Colts. I predicted Indy to win, and I was right on that one. With Indy dominating on Bengals. Now, without their top receiver, AJ Green, Bengals were a bunch of nothing. Yes, they tried to rally on. I'll give Dalton credit, but he's 0-4 in the playoffs now, as he lost his game against the Colts in Indy. There were so many interceptions in that game as well. It's kind of a crazy game. I think the Panthers and Cardinals game was crazy for the turnovers. But there's some decent turnovers in this game too. Kind of great long passes. Even there was one play that impressed me about Andrew Luck. He was under pressure, yet he still threw for a touchdown. So there was some cool, interesting plays in the Colts and Bengals game, which led to the Colts victory 26-10. Now on to the NFC. The NFC wildcard games. Like I said, the only one game I got wrong on my prediction was the Steelers-Ravens game. But I got every other prediction right. Arizona, Carolina. Right on that one. Carolina destroyed Arizona with their quarterback problems bugging them. Yeah, Arizona had a chance to at least rally back in the game. But then turnovers galore. There was so many fumbles and interceptions. It was like turnover heaven in that game, which led to the Carolina Panthers winning 27-16. Now, If I am correct, Pittsburgh was the only one that lost at home. All the home teams won, but Pittsburgh. Now, on to the game that's making a lot of fans here in Michigan. Bitch like a motherfucker for 24 hours. The Cowboys versus the Lions. Now, last week, I predicted that the Cowboys would win. Even though I live in Detroit and, live near Detroit, and seeing that the Lions had a good season, but I took in consideration the fact that the Lions have never won a playoff game in 23 years. Took in consideration that they've never been a good team on the road this year. They lost to Arizona, and lost to New England. Took all that in consideration and predicted the Cowboys were going to win. But in the first half, I was ready to eat crow. As the Lions had a dominating first half. Like I've been saying that for the last couple weeks for the Lions is that they always get the offense starting off rough. They don't get the offense going early. They should be dominant the entire game, not just wait for the comeback. They were dominant early. Score on the first drive with a great TD from Golden Tate. And Lions were dominant. Even with the Stafford interception, the only one in the game. At least they didn't score a field goal out of it at all, or any points at all on that drive for the Cowboys. They did get a touchdown at the end of the half, with the Lions leading 20-7. Then it went to shit. Like, Lions always have that problem by them sometimes. Like, you can call it like there's the new Lions and the old Lions. The old Lions would blow a lead. They kind of did. But it wasn't entirely their fault. Yes, they had a fourth down play that they could have went on, but instead took a delay of game. But the one play that everybody's been talking about for the last 24 hours was the non-call on pass interference in the third quarter that changed momentum of the game entirely. There was a pass interference play called on Dallas, on Lions. That was sole pass interference right there. The flag was called and everything. But what pissed a lot of people off, and still is, was the fact the flag was picked up and overturned. Now, the referees have been blamed for a lot for some Lions losses. Made some bad calls before. They made some bad calls during the Packers game 2 weeks ago. But now, they made bad calls during the game against the Lions, including this one. That basically cost the Lions the game, leading up to the Cowboys' victory 24-20. Yes, the Cowboys were going to Seattle. Not going to Seattle, but going to Green Bay. But the Cowboys would have to remember the fact that they got by with a little help from the refs. Oh, they got high with a little help from the refs. Oh, they won with a little help, with a little help, with a little help from the refs. Everyone was bitching about the referees during the Packers game in Detroit. And now the refs are getting blamed for again. One of the big blames. And Sue was playing. Sue's suspended was lifted to a fine. And I'm one of those people they call themselves fair weather Lions fans that like them when they were good and don't suck. And like Lions had a good season, It's just sad the way it ended, In my mind, even if you make the playoffs, it don't matter if you don't win. You had a great year, great season, great improvements, great year with a new coach. But in my mind, it don't mean dick if you don't win a playoff game. Referee screw job or not. But at least I'll give Lions credit for a good season. Let's hope they can keep that momentum up next season, especially with Sue up for free agency. The big talk after the game was Sue crying at the press conference after the game. So let's see how the Lions can do in the postseason after their devastating, heartbreaking, and screw job loss against the Cowboys. Even the head of officiating said it was the wrong call. They should have kept the flag down. They should have never picked it up. A lot of debates this morning. A lot of debates in the aftermath of that controversial decision. But we got to shake it off, brush it off, and get back in the game when it comes to the playoffs and the divisional games happening next week. Here are my predictions for the divisional games in the AFC and NFC. Let's start off with the Saturday games. in the AFC, we have Baltimore Ravens against New England. Now, the Ravens have been a wildcard team before and went on to win the Super Bowl as a wildcard team. But I believe New England, who's been on the road lately, is going to destroy them. So I say New England will win over Baltimore. Second game of the day in Seattle. It's Carolina versus Seattle. I know a lot of people would have said, let me say this though. Even if, and think about this, Lions fans, for those Lions fans watching, even if the Lions did win the game against Cowboys, what would have happened with them against Seattle? Seattle's one of the best defenses besides the Lions. So that would have been a more intriguing matchup. But this will be more of a shellacking. As I predict the Seattle Seahawks are going to kill Carolina. Newton, Seattle's going to kill you. Trollman's going to kill you. That's my opinion. See how Cam Newton does against Trollman, but I think Seattle's going to kill. Seattle had a rough start to the season, but I think they came back in the later half. And they are the favorites. Again this year to be the first team in several years to repeat as Super Bowl champions. Speaking of trying to repeat as champions, the Denver Broncos to repeat as AFC champions and try to go for the Super Bowl for the second year in a row will have to go up against Peyton's former team, the Indianapolis Colts, for the game on Sunday. Denver. The last time Denver played Indy in Denver, they destroyed them. When Denver plays Indy in Indy, they lost. Now, Indy's beaten Denver before, and they had a good game there, but three letters. PFM. Peyton fucking Manning is all I gotta say. Yes, this season hasn't been the best for the Broncos. It wasn't as a dominating season as last season. Last season, they were more dominant. But this current season, yes, Peyton broke the touchdown record, but they had more hardships than last season. A lot of injuries, and losing to the Rams, and losing to the Bengals. So see how the Broncos answer. But I think Broncos will still have a chance to be a big favorite to repeat as AFC champions to beat the Ravens. No, not Ravens, beat the Colts. And probably go on to beat the Ravens if the Ravens go up to win against the team of the Pats. I think we could see a rematch between the Pats and the Broncos in the AFC Championship match again. But this time, it'll be in New England, not in Denver. That's probably what New England's wanting. The Broncos to win. Because this time, if the Pats end up winning and the Broncos end up winning, the rematch will be in New England, not in Denver. In the NFC game, being a Detroiter, it's going to be tough to pick who we want to see win between the Packers and the Cowboys. Teams who like to have the referees suck their dicks to give them good calls. That's what some fans are thinking. But I have to go with the Packs. Because, one, Cowboys deserve to get an ass whooping and at least have the Green Bay Packers avenge the screw job for us by beating the hell out of the Cowboys. Two, my mom loves the Packers. You know, a friend of mine loves the Cowboys. My mom loves the Packers. It's kind of interesting. Like, it's like that in Detroit, you know. There's some people in Detroit that love the Lions, and some people in Detroit don't like the Lions because they lose us most of the time. Besides this season. And my mom likes Clay Matthews. So that's why I got to side with the Packers. Because I want... Sorry, if my friend watches this video, Alfonso, I'm sorry, buddy. I wish you luck and all, but as being a Detroiter, we need the Lions loss to be avenged for us by the Packers destroying the Cowboys. It's in Lambeau. There's two things, interesting things. Packers are undefeated at home, and the Cowboys are undefeated on the road. So it's an interesting matchup to see what will fare better. The home record of the Packers or the away record again for the Cowboys. So that's my predictions for the divisional playoffs. For the NFC, predicting a Packers. NFC, I predict the Packers against the Seattle Seahawks for the NFC title, which will be a rematch of Week 1 when Packers lost to Seattle in Seattle, and a rematch of the AFC Championship between the Pats and the Broncos, this time in Denver. That's my predictions for divisional. Packs, Broncos, Packers, Seattle. Now, on to my Raw preview for tonight, the first Raw of 2015. with the return of the Authorities. Too early in my mind. Let's get on down to top 3 questions that must be answered tonight. Sorry, the tackle is a little long. Question number 3. Will anything be added to the Royal Rumble match or the pay-per-view itself? Now, we know Roman Reigns is in. D-Bry announces his return at the Rumble. He'll be back in the Rumble, in wrestling, and everything, in the match itself. Now, a lot of concerns about his neck, about how well his neck is. He really wrestled the same. We shall see how D-Bry does in the ring when he comes back. And I also predicted in my Raw review last week, a lot of matches will probably be added, like possibly Ryback against Rusev for the U.S. title, Usos against Ascension. I hope Ascension get back in shape. I heard Vince was bitching about Ascension's debut, about how out of shape they were. And, maybe a match between Ziggler and somebody, but in Italian, Nikki Bella, so a lot of matches maybe seeds planning. So we see if those matches come to fruition tonight or not. Question number 2. We'll go down the ambulance match between Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose. This feud needs to end. Like I said last week, these millennials don't like long feuds and want things to end just like that. These guys have had a lengthy feud and a fun one at that. You know, TLC match was great despite some silly endings like the TV exploding. Their Miracle on 34th Street fight was good, but now they got the ambulance match tonight. I think this could be the be-all, end-all for this feud. They could face off in the Rumble match, but I don't think they're going to have a match at the Rumble. I think the feud should end tonight on Raw in the ambulance match. No matter who wins. Sorry, I got allergies bugging me today. Number 1 question. It must be answered tonight on Raw. Will Raw suck with the Authority back? Now, what was good last week? What was interesting Raw last week? We had a title change. Rusev the new tag team champions. Decent match between Rusev and Dolph Ziggler. But the entire Raw perplexion kind of faded after the Authority was brought back, after John Cena was kind of bullied into bringing him back. I didn't like the way they had to do that. And I think the Authority should have stayed off TV a little bit longer. But them being back sooner than expected, it kind of demeaned Survivor Series. It kind of lessened Survivor Series impact. But the fact he thought he was sent away with the debut of Sting, it kind of diminished Sting's debut a bit. But I hope the God Authority doesn't do what they have done. Destroy the WWE Iron Fist and blow up the entire fucking show. But we shall see what goes down with the Authority's return tonight on Raw at 8, 7 Central on USA Network. The first one of the year. And that is it for this very lengthy Atak Sportz for today. Thank y'all very much for watching. And one last thing. The network's finally going to debut in UK next week. We hope. Every time WWE teases a debut date for the UK, it never fucking happens. Hopefully they keep their word this time. So there you go. And I will also end with this. When it comes to the referees that were involved in the screw job in the Lions game, I got 2 words for you. You're fired. I think a lot of Lions fans want an apology, or at least people getting fired or punished for their screw job finish. But hey, you know, a lot of debate about that still. So once again, thank you very much for watching this first Atak Sportz of the year 2015. Stay tuned tonight for my Raw review on this channel. With that in mind, y'all been attacked by the sports news from Zach. First time saying that this year. Thank you so much for watching. See ya! Yeah.